Good morning, and thanks so much for tuning in. This is Stocks to Watch on BloombergQuint, and I'm Alex Mathew. Now, the Bulls have been at the party since, I think, for the last 7 straight days. And we'll have to see finally today whether the Bears come out to play. In the meanwhile, I've got a few stocks to talk to you about, and the person who's going to give you advice on them is Avinash Gorakshakar. Thank you so much, Avinash, for joining me this morning. Happy Monday to you. I think the question a lot of people asking is, will today finally be the day that we see red in the market after 7 straight days of gains? But before we get to that, I think there's an interesting stock that in all probability will start off in the red today. I'm talking about Shilpa Medicare. It's a small cap stock, but it's a stock that has really ridden the wave of that pharma rally, and it's gained about nearly 100% in the year to date period. But it has received a US FDA warning letter for its formulation facility in Telangana. And the company has said that it believes that the warning letter will have a minimum impact on that facility on, and it will not disrupt the supplies, and that the revenue from that operation will continue. But you must admit that it is a negative. And how would you react to something like that?
Good morning, Alex. I think clearly the warning letter which has come to Shilpa Medicare is going to be a negative surprise, at least in the short term. I think clearly markets were not expecting this, and one could definitely expect a weak opening, today. And markets would obviously, await some more clarity on this warning letter. Now, what happens next? Clearly, the company is a leading player in the API as well as in the oncology formulation space, and has shown significant growth over the last, say, 3 to 4 quarters. In fact, the API business has been doing very well for them. In fact, margins as well as top line growth has grown significantly. So I think this warning letter which has come for the formulation unit obviously upsets their plans. They've yet not been told, to curtail production or cut their output. But I think going forward in the next few weeks, depending upon the news flows, Alex, the stock would definitely turn upwards, because fundamentally the company seems to be on a strong wicket. Uh, if at all, the formulation unit is impacted very badly, then obviously it could impact the earnings trajectory for FY21 and FY22. But my suggestion would be that one should await little more clarity from the management, as they have mentioned it very clearly that this will not have a significant impact on their earnings, at least in the near term. So I think longer term prospects are good, but yes, in the near term, that is maybe for today or maybe for a few days, you could find the stock under pressure, and it has already corrected from a high of almost 750 odd to 550 odd levels. So the downside now seems to be limited, but yes, it could open in the red, and we would await more clarity going ahead.
Okay, fair enough. Now, the second counter is also in all probability going to start off in the red, Avinash, and this is based on news flow over the course of the weekend. Vedanta has come out with a statement, or has notified the stock exchanges, saying that the buyback is, rather not the buyback, I'm talking about the delisting, has deemed to have failed. And that's a significant statement to have made. There were certain updates that said that as many as 12.3 crore shares that were tendered were unconfirmed. So I think, long story short, we've had the delisting that has failed. The stock is likely to open in the red. But at what point, as a fundamental analyst, would you say that the fundamentals are attractive enough for you to get in and buy this counter?
I think, Alex, one thing is very clear: the failure of the delisting process is definitely a big negative surprise, and there's no doubt that today the stock would open weak. In fact, already the ADRs were down by almost 7 to 8%. So we could see a weak opening from Vedanta. And I think the markets were clearly expecting that 90% could have been procured by the management. There could be a counter offer price. But now, with the delisting failure, one would have to wait for some more clarity from the management. And as you mentioned rightly, now the delisting story is over. The market should again focus on the fundamentals. And if at all the stock corrects significantly to levels of around 87 to 90 odd levels, I think it would be an attractive kind of buy, considering the kind of risk reward this business offers. Because technically the company continues to have very solid investments in the form of Hindustan Zinc, It's got decent amount of cash on the books, and more importantly, metal prices have been stabilizing. So clearly, from a business standpoint of view, 85 to 90 rupees, Alex, would be an attractive level to enter. Of course, the caveat is that market should obviously await some clarity on the fresh delisting offer, if at all it comes. So I think the markets would definitely look at it as a value buy, and I would also personally look at it as a good risk reward bet if it comes to around 87-90 odd levels. Net, I think the market should now look at focusing on the fundamentals of the business, as the delisting story is now completely out, at least for the time.
Speaking of attractive buys or value buys, BPCL is the last counter that we're focusing on today. Not necessarily on account of being in the news, but the fact that it is down about 15% in over the course of the last month. It's underperformed, to say the least, and it's actually, in fact, if you see that trend line, it's heading lower as we speak. So it's actually not yet at a 52-week low, Avinash, but it's still significantly off its 52-week high. And I think that the latest news that said that the extension of the time for bids to come in for the government stake to be sold was not seen as a very positive factor. But if you talk about the business with expectations that the second quarter is going to be much better for this company, would you say that this is a good level to enter into, irrespective of when the stake by the government is sold?
Yeah, Alex, I think I take your point fully, because clearly my sense is that now, with the extension of the bidding date by the government for BPCL strategic sale, it had given a negative surprise earlier. So most of the negatives are already factored into the price. I think what is interesting is, Alex, that definitely one thing is certain, that if at all the extension further happens for BPCL on the strategic sale front, I think by March 2021, I think it would definitely happen. And coming back to the business, I would believe that at these valuations and at this price, BPCL seems to be a very attractive bet for high risk investors. Clearly, from a business standpoint of view, because compared to the first quarter, when the lockdown impact was quite significant, the Q2 impact is definitely going to be minimal. We have seen the unlocking of the economy, and I think sectors like automobiles, aviation gradually picking up. So I think the volume throughput as well as the price stability is going to be pretty good. I would definitely look at it as a attractive investment when considering that they've got a very strong oil and gas kind of asset base, and more importantly, once the announcement of the strategic investor happens, we could see a significant amount of re-rating. So from a 52-week high, the stock has corrected significantly, and in the previous month, as you said rightly, it's down by almost 15%. So these are attractive levels to actually start nimbling and building positions here, probably in anticipation of some good news on the strategic sale front, and obviously on the quarter two numbers.
All right, so we've had an interesting chat this morning. Avinash, thank you so much for joining me and taking us through the three stocks to watch today. There are, of course, more stocks that are clearly going to be active in trade today, and I would encourage you to stay tuned to BloombergQuint, dear viewer, to find out how that pans out. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. Have a lovely day and an amazing week ahead.